Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Professor Sonal Shah, the founding executive director of our Beck Center for Social Impact and Innovation and professor here at Georgetown University. She's joined us after serving in the White House and founding the White House Office of Social Innovation and Civic Participation. Sonal, thank you for taking the time to be with us for this conversation. It's been 6 years since the Beck Center for Social Impact and Innovation was founded here at Georgetown. Can you talk a little bit about some of the impacts that the center has had and some of your goals as you envision its future?
Well, President DeGioia, thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation with you. Super excited not only in having this conversation, but just everything that we've been doing at Georgetown. It's been really amazing to be a part of a team that's incredibly both thoughtful, but also just thinks about the students and professors and that faculty and the community all together. So really appreciate it. It's interesting, I can't believe it's already been 6 years of the Beck Center. It's amazing. The goal of the Beck Center when we first started was to train students on how to have impact, or giving them the experience to have impact. And what's been amazing is how much the students have carried us so much further. So it's not just that they wanted the classes and the experiences, as they wanted to participate in the projects that we do. And that's everything from how do you digitize services to how do you make sure finance goes to communities that don't have access to finance. And the students continue to grow with us, but they also continue to teach us on where do they want to go, what do they also want to do. And I'd say for the next 6 years, I think we want to double down on that. We want to make sure the students have more experiences, more ability to participate with us, and are part of the changing environment that we see outside in the world around us, that they can make and contribute to the common good.
How has the center approached our virtual learning environment? What are some of the activities that you're anticipating for this year and ways that you're finding to stay connected?
That's a great question. So we went virtual pretty quickly in March, right after Georgetown announced moving virtual. And we have been working with students as well as with our community on a virtual basis since then. And what's been amazing is, and even students that were going overseas to go work on projects through GU Impacts have gone virtual. They're working with their organizations internationally, virtually, helping them from everything from example of running a training session online for teachers in rural India, or running working with universities overseas, helping them think about how to use virtual environments and what kinds of tools they can use. So it's been amazing sort of what the students have done. But I think the main thing I would take away is we've had to work hard at creating community virtually. So making sure that we're talking to each other, making sure that we're having connections where, especially as racial equity conversations around the country were increasing, making sure we've created that space online to also have those conversations in a virtual setting, but leaving space for that, leaving opportunities for that. Sometimes we just run meetings where people are just sitting, they're not necessarily doing anything at the meeting, but we'll all do our work, but we can ask a question if we need to, but that's like a 30-minute meeting where we can do that. So it's a way for us to stay connected as if we're still in the same space.
Sure. No, thank you. I'd like to pick up on some of the dynamics related to technology and data. The Beck Center has contributed important work on how data can inform governance. Can you talk a little bit about the role of data in responding to the pandemic now, and how data can help us in a post-pandemic recovery?
Yeah, data is so critical. And here I just want to also give a shout out to Provost Groves, who's just been such a great part of working with us on how to think about data for social good and how do we use data effectively. So 3 ways that we are looking at and how we use data. One, we run a network of chief data officers across the country that are working with their governors and helping them understand and use the data effectively for economic recovery, for making sure, for example, that PPEs are in the right places at the right time, times, that we know what materials are needed in different places. So while data seems like a, sort of this thing out there, it really helps people make real-time decisions. And that's everything from PPEs and where COVID cases are the highest and where do you have to be careful, to what kinds of materials are available in what places, to disasters and making sure that equipment is positioned in the right places based on where a hurricane might be, for example, the one in Louisiana most recently. So we think data is such a critical part, and using the ability, students have been able to work with us to work with these cities and states as they're trying to use data effectively. And recently we just released a report from our network on how data can be effectively used for economic recovery post-COVID.
Thank you. Now, you've just rejoined our community after taking on an exciting role, helping to shape the policy discussion in our country. Can you share a little bit about your experiences this past year?
Yeah, I was national policy director for Pete Buttigieg's campaign, and I think one of the things that I took away from that was one, just the importance of bringing new people into the conversation on policy, understanding lived experiences with sort of how policy works, and making sure we're also communicating that back to people as to why this policy is written this way. What does it mean for you? How to do that? And the best part about being in that job was being able to go into communities and have these conversations, understand what is it that people are concerned about, and where is it that they are looking for solutions in their own communities and their own lives. And secondly, how do we empower them through policy, allowing them to do the things that they know how to do? It's not that there's this Washington, D.C. initiative that's going to tell people what to do, but it's that there's these policies that can help them achieve the goals that they have in their own communities.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. As you know, we are in the midst of a pandemic. We're facing declining trust in our institutions. Our responsibilities as individuals and institutions are requiring us to think about our roles in new ways. As you think about this period in front of us, as we start to emerge from this pandemic's worst impacts, we'll be looking at a significant recovery. Can you share a few of the issues that you're focused on, things that you find especially important for us to think about in this moment?
Well, President Shah, I think one of the most important things that, Georgetown certainly brings to the table is just this ability to bring people together. And I think as we think about the recovery and post the recovery, one is just being able to bring people together to have conversations on what it is we actually faced. We all had very different lived experiences, whether you were in New York or whether you were in Texas or whether you were in Ohio or in different places. So one of the things that I think I take away from this recovery is, one, having this conversation as to what is it that we need to do better together. This recovery isn't about what you do versus what I do. It's like, what do we need to do together? If we take care of each other, then we take care of the world around us. And my taking care of myself means I'm also taking care of you and everybody else. So that's important, that we have a common responsibility. So I think one of the things that this recovery has shown is the need for common conversation, the need for an understanding of what we need to collectively do to resolve post the recovery, through the recovery, and then post the recovery, making sure that we don't just go back to our corners and fight each other, but that we're sort of coming together and saying there are solutions here and we can work together to think about how to rebuild our economy, to make sure we take care of those who are the most vulnerable in our society and not leave them behind and say, okay, the economy is getting back to normal, let's leave that, but making sure that we take that responsibility, because that is what a responsibility is to make sure we take care of the most vulnerable.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe we can bring it a little closer and more immediately to campus. As you know, we've been working on having in place a layered public health approach, and we've developed a new campaign, Every Hoya Everywhere, to encourage all members of our community to share in the responsibilities for public health. As you think about your work, what are some of the ways that we can encourage and shape the habits and behaviors of our community?
I think this is super interesting and super important. Like, first, just the ability and the thoughtfulness. I've been part of some of it, of bringing together this our community and making sure we're all taking care of each other. And the thoughtfulness by which we think about how do we use people's data? How do we make sure when we're testing whose data is going where? We're asking all of those questions internally that the world itself is asking, which is important. I think post this recovery, we're going to move much more to a digital age. I think we're going to use services more digitally. We're going to do meetings like this more often. But I think these bigger questions that, Georgetown's so well positioned, and we have the professors and the team through our Tech and Society initiative and other places, is to think about how do we digitize in a way that's also equitable. Who's at the table? How do we make sure people are included in the process? Just from a Georgetown perspective, how do we make sure students who may not have access to Wi-Fi or access to computers have access to the services that they need so they can actively participate in that? And that's globally and nationally as we think about this, but Georgetown's such a great place to have this. And then secondly, how do we bring conversations together virtually or in person, maybe right now virtually, to make sure that we're building an equitable society that is making sure that everyone has an ability to participate and actively engage and thrive. I think we sort of always talk about engagement, but really why we're in it is we want people to thrive and we want them to do that. So from the Beck Center's perspective, we're focused on how to help cities, states, and the federal government digitize their services, but also bringing in our colleagues from other parts of the university to say, how do we do it ethically? And what are ways to do that? Because it's going to happen when we give people food benefits, when we think about healthcare benefits, when we think about unemployment insurance. People should be able to get that in a fairly easy manner. And the way the current systems are designed, they're designed for the administrators, not for the users. So we've been working on turning that around to make it available for the users in the way that we're thinking, way we do this at Georgetown, which is every Hoya everywhere. We're taking care of each other virtually and in person. And similarly, we can do the same in society around us. And so that's where the Beck Center is playing its role, but it's also where we are part of the broader Tech and Society initiative at Georgetown.
Oh, thank you. It is great to have you back. And we look forward to the moment when we can all be back here on campus together. Thank you for taking the time for this conversation this morning. In closing, is there any last word you'd like to leave with our community as we begin the start of this new academic year?
I would just say to the students that I know that this is an odd way to start a school year, and certainly was an odd way for those that were here last year to close the school year. But in uncertain times is when our characters come out and who we are and how we take care of each other. And this is a real moment for our leadership, for each of us as Hoyas, to show a different way and a different approach in how we take care of each other and how do we take care of the community around us, but build an institution that shows what the common good is in practice, not just in concept. And this is our opportunity to do that. So while it might seem frustrating and all of those things, we have a real chance to show a new path forward. And I hope all of you think about that, because you are the leaders of the future, and you're going to lead us in a few years, telling us how to do things differently. So we look forward to it, and we're really excited about having every student join us.
Sonal, we're so grateful for your leadership in our community. Thank you for sharing your insights in our conversation today. I look forward to being with all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you, for every way, everywhere.